defects that could and should be recalled slip through the cracks because they're not reported to the government agency, which has to have that information in order to make decisions to recall a car.
We are continuing to follow details of what is happening in France. We will bring you up to speed as anything new happens, but there is other news going on today. So what would you call a major automobile manufacturer who knows about problems with their cars, has in its hands reports of people being injured and even killed in their cars due to defects, and hiding such numbers from the federal government in order to keep their brand as pristine as possible? You would call them guilty of much more than just underreporting. You would call them busted by the feds. Welcome back to MidPoint syndicated and noted auto expert, race car driver, and the person who will take anyone to task for paying retail. The car coach, Lauren Fix, joins us. Lauren, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Ed. Welcome back.
It is a pleasure to be back. Let's get right down to the motoring, if you will, here. $70 million Honda is hit with fines. Okay, look, there's two sides to this. Underreported deaths and injuries, that in itself is pretty disturbing. But the second part of it is $70 million. That's 3 days of sales in Honda globally. That's a drop in the bucket.
It is really a drop in the bucket. But hey, you know what? If you really want to hurt anybody, even a consumer, you hurt them in the pocketbook. That's really where it hurts. Because that may, how else you can't slap them on the wrist. You're not going to put someone in prison like they talked about doing, because who do you pinpoint that one person? But what's really interesting is previous to this huge $70 million fine from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, the previous one was only $35 million. So now we've doubled that. Hopefully it'll make them hurt a little bit. Maybe that'll take away one ad of the Super Bowl. But I think that they'll be able to make up the difference. Honda makes good product. For the most part, we always look at Honda as a top quality product, and they'll make it up in sales, especially with their new product coming out next week.
The difference here, I think, that a lot of people are looking at is if Honda does this, I got news for you, the consumer, then it's going to be going to every automobile dealer and going, what are you hiding?
What's so funny is we talk about this all the time. I agree with you. I always wonder, what are they really hiding? What do they know that they're not telling us? But I think as a journalist, and I do talk to CEOs and I talk to people in production, and sometimes it's stuff they say, you can't say this on television. It's very interesting that consumers as a whole, they hear all this. They hear about airbag recalls, ignition switch recalls, and they go right back to the same automakers like nothing ever happened. It's like telling your kids to sit in timeout. 2 minutes later, they're back doing the same thing. So, you really need to think about your choices. And again, that's a personal choice. There are people that are true Honda enthusiasts, and they will buy nothing but a Honda. And they go, they made a mistake. Then they move on. GM was smart. They made a ton of sales off of the ignition switch recall. Hey, you go in the dealership, my car's in for recall. What a great opportunity to sell you another car. And that's smart business.
All right, I got about a minute and a half left, and I got to hit a couple of cars here for you before we let you go. Mercedes-Benz showed off their self-driving car of the future, the CES 2015. Lauren, it's the first time I've seen a living room on wheels.
Well, that's the future. I don't know if consumers want it. There's been a bunch of studies that consumers are willing to pay more for technology. But this is autonomous cars. We're about 5 to 10 years off, according to Ford. Mark Fields was up there talking about Ford's, that they're going to do it as well. Audi's got their vehicles. They actually drove Audi A7s and A8s that were from Silicon Valley all the way to Nevada that were driverless. So I think when you're looking at Mercedes and their new technologies, it's great to see that they're actually going to start implementing some of this. But all of it, I don't know about having my back to the roadway, sitting in the driver's seat like a living room. At that point, you might as well just get yourself a driver or take mass transit.
I think get the driver indeed. Less than 60 seconds, Toyota has got a hydrogen-powered car, and they're going to give you free fuel for 3 years. They'll give you just about anything to get this car. Is this really something worth buying and investing in?
Well, you can only get it in California right now because there's no stations in order to fuel up. But hydrogen is one of the answers. Compressed natural gas is another. We're starting to see this more and more common. As a matter of fact, there's a huge push you're going to be seeing coming up. I can't really tell you too much about it, but I will tell you that there's a huge push coming up in the racing series, and you know which one I'm talking about, that's going to be pushing hydrogen and compressed natural gas as one of the fuels. So this is going to be a better alternative to electric vehicles, although the sales for EV vehicles are up 40%, 13% increase in sales for diesels. That's my favorite choice. So alternatives are going to be there, but hey, look at the price of gasoline. People are buying SUVs again. It's like they just totally forgot about that gas was almost $5 a gallon.
All right, well, $5 a gallon. My goodness, I couldn't imagine that could ever happen.
It's half that now. now.
Why not? We'll get down to $1 any day now. Remind everybody, LaurenFix.com. Check it out day to day. Great stuff, great information. Lauren, always a pleasure to have you on the show. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. We're keeping an eye on the developing stories from France, and we will bring you updates as the news warrants right here on MidPoint.